My Vote Mackinac is brought to you by ITC Holdings Corp., the Masco Corporation Foundation, DTE Energy Foundation, PVS Chemicals, World Asset Management, a Comerica company, Raymond, and by the Shirley and Bill Fox Fund.
In 2011, DTE Energy made a commitment to spend an incremental $750 million with Michigan businesses over 5 years. Well, we expect to surpass that goal and are on a course to spend over $1 billion incremental dollars over the 5-year period, an investment that will grow local businesses and provide jobs for our state. At DTE Energy, we love this initiative because we know it's a way that we can help put Michigan back on the path to prosperity.
ITC operates, builds, and maintains the electric transmission infrastructure. We are working hard to improve electric reliability and increase electric transmission capacity throughout our operations across the Midwest. ITC, we're your energy superhighway.
Masco Corporation and its foundation strive to make a difference in the lives of active military veterans and their families. From financial support that provides the comfort of home for traveling soldiers, to permanent housing solutions for homeless veterans, as well as product donations and volunteer efforts around the country, we salute those who have defended our freedom. Masco and its family of companies, honoring those who have served. PVS Chemicals is a global manufacturer, distributor, and marketer of chemicals and related environmentally focused products. While PVS continues to expand its global reach, it remains a family-owned company with a continued focus on supporting numerous community and cultural events through its philanthropic endeavors. PVS understands the importance of making Michigan a better place to live and improving quality of life abroad. PVS Chemicals, committed to Michigan since 1945.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our live coverage of the Detroit Regional Chamber's Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Christy McDonald with Detroit Public Television. We're glad that you're joining us on myvote.org, or if you're watching any of the other media outlets and websites who are carrying our coverage. We are going to be here for the next 3 days from the lobby of the Grand Hotel. We are going to follow this conference all the way through Friday, all of the conversations, all of the sessions, and we are so glad that you are going to be a part of it. We are also on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter, so if you want to get in on the conversation and tell us what you like to hear, what you think about some of the sessions and what some of the conversations are going on about, we would love to hear from you. We are going to be covering the sessions. We're going to be talking about business in the state of Michigan. We're also going to be talking about education, and anytime that you get all of these business leaders and politicians in one place, you know that there'll also be some unofficial agenda items. There's a lot of conversation going on the island already, talking about the minimum wage bill that was signed, also talking about politics, the U.S. Senate race. Terry Lynn Land and Congressman Gary Peters both spoke here this morning as well. We'll be talking about that as well. So we're glad that you are with us. We're going to have a wonderful next 3 days, but here's a little setup of what this conference really is all about. The Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island is the hub for the Detroit Regional Chamber's Mackinac Policy Conference. 2014 marks the 34th year. More than 1,500 of Michigan's top business professionals, government leaders, entrepreneurs, and concerned citizens will gather on the island to share ideas to move Michigan forward. The themes for this year's conference: entrepreneurship, STEM education, a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math, and impact.
Making Michigan a globally competitive state and a globally competitive environment for Michigan families, Michigan employees, so that we can drive the state forward.
But that drive will mean traveling through the city of Detroit's bankruptcy, the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan and Emergency Manager Kevin Orr will take center stage at the conference to discuss putting the city on a long-term path of sustainability. And the mood of the people living across the state indicates Michigan is moving in the right direction.
you will hear people say that they've never been more optimistic about Michigan's future than they are now. And there's data to back that up. If you look at what their hiring plans are, it's positive. When you look at what their attitude is, it's positive. When you look at what they think of state policy, it's positive.
Positive with good reason. The state is enjoying a budget surplus and the unemployment rate continues to drop. But this is also an election year, and many of Michigan's longtime and influential lawmakers, Senator Carl Levin, Congressman Mike Rogers, Dave Camp, and John Dingell, have called it quits. CNN political commentators Paul Begala and S.E. Cupp will bring their opinions and debate the midterm elections. Another hot topic, the future of education.
We have a challenge in this state. There's tens of thousands of jobs that are available that can't be filled because the workforce doesn't have the proper training and skills to fill those jobs.
Gallup CEO Jim Clifton, best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell, and Joel Klein, the former chancellor of the New York City Department of Education, will offer their insight. There will also be panels on entrepreneurship, the opportunities and the challenges, as well as technology and the future of the auto industry. Perhaps one of the more unique sessions, a Veterans Talent Showcase, designed to help those who served our country find jobs in the private sector.
It's very important that this conference is not just about having a conversation and then having it kind of float away.
When I leave the island, I've always got a lot of thoughts going through my head about different topics and different themes and different issues that people bring to the table.
It may be happening up here on Mackinac Island, but the things that we're talking about impacts everyone across the state. And the people that are up here right now, well, they have the power to enact a lot of the change. So it's going to be a great conversation for the next 3 days. And joining me now to kick things off, really, is Nolan Finley from the Detroit News and Nancy Kaffer from the Detroit Free Press. Thanks so much for joining me. Here we go.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to be up here on Mackinac Island. It feels like it came around quick again this year.
Years are passing quickly.
All right, so as we get started here, Nolan, I guess what is your feeling about, the vibe going into the conference here this year?
Well, I think everybody breathed a big sigh of relief coming in when the House passed the Detroit bailout bills. Had those not passed, that was going to dominate the discussion here, and it's still taking a big chunk of the conversation. Which the Senate has to deal with it when they get back, and there is some concern that there may be some holdups, but I think everyone now believes that the big hurdle has been crossed in Detroit's rescue.
What are you looking for, Nancy, when you come up here this week? What are you listening for?
What am I listening for? We keep talking a lot about education, but there's some very serious stuff happening K through 12 education in the state legislature right now. We're implementing this new set of educational standards called Common Core, but the legislature has sort of at the 11th hour trying to pull the plug on the test that goes with these new educational standards. This deal is being worked on, whether or not they're going to bring this new test in or whether or not they're going to stick with the MEP, which is, obviously our traditional
But from my
test.
understanding, they have already gone through the process to end the MEP. As of this year, they're saying, well, next year we have this, it's
a smarter balance.
Smarter balance. Mm-hmm. And now there's a bill on the floor right now looking to put that standardized testing under the control of the Treasury Department.
It's a lot of strange political moves, and it's really aimed at bringing the MEP back, only a different MEP that would work with the Common Core standards, but it's a new MEP that somehow we're going to develop in the next couple of months. It takes years to develop a standardized
I was just going to say, it feels like this conversation is way too late to be having when we're looking at the 2015 school year, Nolan.
Well, I don't know. I think it's always an important conversation. If you're going to test right, and right now we're all over the place, got too many tests going on. I'm not sure the smarter balanced is the right test here. I'm not sure that the federal government is going to do any better with education than they've done with healthcare or anything else. I think the obsession with testing in the schools, it's time to stop and take a look at that. Maybe, particularly if we're going into STEM, I'm not sure that the traditional method of teaching still works with the STEM education. I think you need more project-based learning rather than this rote memorization and testing.
First of all, this isn't a federal government educational thing. The Common Core was developed by the National Governors Association, and states have voluntarily adopted these standards. The Smarter Balance test that's aligned with the Common Core standards was developed by a states-led consortium. So this is not the federal government regulating or taking over education, though.
It's coming out of the education department.
They have provided some incentive for states to sign on to this through Race to the Top. But the idea that you're going to take standards and then have a test that was designed to measure if you're reaching those standards and then switch to a test that isn't is a really weird maneuver. It's like saying I'm going to give you Spanish classes for a year, but at the end I'm going to assess how well you've learned Italian. It's going to have some skewed results.
There are some concerns in the education community particularly about this test and whether it's going to be effective and whether it's going to have an undue influence on what goes on in the classroom. And we still have to give teachers room to teach and room to be creative.
Well, let me ask. Hang on. Let me ask this as a parent, though, because when I sat down with Superintendent Flanagan in December, and he said this was a done deal. This is the test that we're moving towards. Why is this, I guess, a question now? Why are we changing our mind so far down the road?
Because Mike Flanagan's a great guy, but he's not the final word on education. Michigan's one of only like 3 states that has an independent state board of education and an independent superintendent with no real budget control. That's the governor and the legislature. Ultimately, the people who control the money are going to control the decision making.
So that's actually a little bit of a legal question, whether or not the Department of Education is in fact the final word. And I think we're going to see some litigation if this goes through and the legislature does put the kibosh on Smarter Balanced and makes the MEP go forward, whether or not the legislature in fact does have the ability to not follow the Department of Education recommendations, which is why you see this proposal to move that testing function to Treasury.
Where it was in the past.
Let's move a little bit forward in talking about STEM education. It is a part of a larger conversation here at the conference here, in educating that next workforce, that next generation here in Michigan to be able to, to fill a lot of the jobs that are out there. Why is this type of education so important to our job supply in the next 20 years?
Well, the Chamber's out with a poll today. Their Mich Auto division is out with a poll today that shows Michigan attitudes about auto jobs. They're still suspect. We've got all these good jobs being created now in the industry, technology jobs, engineering jobs, and advanced manufacturing jobs. And the people of Michigan still, coming out of this horrible crash of the industry, still don't have confidence that the industry's a place for a career future. And so I think it's important to start training Michigan citizens for these good jobs the industry's creating. If we don't, the auto company's going to have to go someplace else for workers.
Nance?
And we still need to diversify. We have this thing in the state where when the auto industry suffers, we talk about how important it is to diversify our economy, and then the auto industry rebounds and we stop talking about it. But at the same time, these technology, engineering, science, math jobs are where growth is happening, and we need to have the workforce that can work in whatever iteration of that industry comes to Michigan. But I would say one of the things that is happening nationally or globally, all of the countries we're competing with in these technology areas have the kind of clearly articulated national standards that are represented in Common Core. We're getting beat up all around the world because we have this patchwork of educational standards throughout the country. Is Common Core the perfect thing that's going to get us where we need to go? No one can tell you that right now. Is high-stakes testing the best way to measure educational progress? I don't think so, but it's what the trend has been, and if we're going to do it, we need to do it well.
All right, well, we have a lot of other things to talk about. We're going to get to a little later on in the afternoon. The conference is getting set to start. We're going to talk a little bit about Detroit and the fact that the Senate has to take up the grand bargain. But the conference usually always kicks off with the governor giving an opening speech. So Nancy Kaffer, Nolan Finley, thanks so much for joining me. We are going to get you started and bring you into the conference. Hank Cooney, the conference chair, is speaking right now.